Hi, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to do a rack of ribs on the Traeger Pellet Grill. So this grill is the small size. It is equivalent to it's a Traeger 20, which is the same size as the Tailgater, and we're going to get that started. So first off, I'm going to start off by grabbing a bag of Traeger wood pellets here. This one is hickory. For ribs, you can use just about anything depending on your taste. And hickory is one of my favorites. I want to mention something about some of the pellets. I, along with some of my friends, have had some questionable luck on some of the blends. And so I recommend going with a straight flavor and not using a blended flavor. And my friend who actually owns this particular smoker, I have mine over here, which I left outside and messed up. But my friend also had the same experience with his, so we kind of both feel the same way about that. So first thing we're going to do is, it's in the off or shutdown position. We're going to flip on the switch, and then we're going to turn it to smoke. Then we're going to go ahead and open the lid so that way it gets some good air. I'm going to tell you that last time when I was done, I got a little bit of cheese on this. So we're just going to wipe that off real quick while we're sitting here. I don't know if you saw my accessory video, but this is the wrapped brush, and I've been using it in this one. This is a brand new one. I had another one that was almost exactly like it, and it worked good, but I sold it with one of my smokers. And then when your buddy says, well, you're gonna throw in the brush, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, of course I'm gonna throw in the brush, because I mean, you know, you gotta take care of your friends, right? And so anyway, so I have been using this one that's brand new, and it works really good because I like how well it wraps around the grates. And I haven't had any of the bristles fall out yet, but you never know. Some of them look a little different in sizes, but like I said, I haven't had any that I've noticed fall out yet. But that thing just wraps around really good, and it's got that grill cleaned up like nobody's business. So we're gonna get this started and lit. And as it goes, when it lights, it's gonna smoke a lot. And then as soon as it stops smoking, that means that it's burning clean and ready to go. We need to leave it on in the smoke position, and we need to leave the lid open while this happens, and prevents any like heat explosions. I don't know exactly what they call it, but people have reported having that kind of problem. This just seems to work well. So anyway, let's go in the kitchen and we'll take a look at how I prepared the ribs. All right, so we're in the kitchen here. We're gonna prep the ribs. So first thing I'm gonna do is I rinsed them off and left them sitting in the sink. And so we're just gonna go ahead and pull them out. And then I'm gonna face them this way so that way I can see what I'm working with. I always trim off the edges here. You can do that with a knife, or I usually use my kitchen scissors just because they're so good. And then I'm going to trim this off so we can get a nice flat surface there. So I trim this stuff off, and I do go ahead and grill it off. Sometimes I'll, like if it's in the morning, I'll throw it in a frying pan and mix it with some eggs. It's really nice pork and eggs there. Okay, so the most important thing that you have to do when you're working with the rib rack is remove the silver skin. There's a couple of different ways to do it. This is the one way that I've had the most luck with. I started doing this a few years ago. Get yourself a butter knife. Not serrated. I don't think you can see that, but you want to get the one, this is one of the dullest ones I have. There's a small little serrades on there, but if you can find one without serrades at all, that's the best. So I'm going to push this up against the bone here and work it in underneath the silver skin. and try to follow that bone right up until I can lift it and get a nice piece of that coming up like that. This is not the only way to do it. You can also use a paper towel, and if you break it, that's probably what you're going to want to do. So once you get it going, you can just put your thumb under there and you can get it to come right up like that. And look at that. Got it cleared all there, and now I'm going to start working back the opposite direction. There's one. Just kind of get it to kind of rips like in ribbons. And if you lose it, you can do two things. You can either, like I said, grab a paper towel and it'll increase your grip, or you can take the butter knife and start over again. And so you just kind of lift it up a little bit and then run the butter knife along one of the bones until you can lift it up. And then you've basically started again. And you get all that off. Now, there's just, I mean, you're really not going to be able to eat through that. And if you do, you'll just be getting it stuck in your teeth. This is just not an enjoyable part of the rib rack. So I'll go ahead and just toss this in the garbage behind the camera here. And then I'll flip this over and take a look here. There's a little piece here that I'm going to trim off. And then for the most part, we could just be done there, but I'm not going to be done with that. I'm going to go ahead and break it down into a few pieces. So just any regular knife. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to count down 4 bones. And I'm going to go ahead and slice right between the bones. So I'm standing here working and I'm realizing that I turned the dishwasher on, so I hope that that doesn't bother you. So now I'm going to try to find a middle spot, which is also should be 4 bones. There should be about 12 in each rack. And then I'm just going to follow it down. When I get to here, I'm going to try to straighten it up as much as I can. The bones curve a little bit, but I want more evenness in size. So you can see here that these two pieces, while they're not straight, they're pretty good in size and consistency. Okay, so now I'm going to just set those in the sink for now, and I'm done with the knife, so I don't need that either. And then I'm going to do my rub. So I went ahead and prepared the seasonings ahead of time because I didn't want you to have to wait. So this is almost a cup of brown sugar, and I use dark brown sugar most of the time because I like the extra flavor the molasses gives it. It's just a little under, but again, I just eyeballed it. 2 tablespoons of pepper, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon of homemade smoked salt, and this is a pink salt here. You could use whatever you want, but I like, when I'm using a pellet grill, I like to add more smoke in it. So smoked paprika, smoked salt, and then garlic. You could also do smoked pepper, but if you're going to do smoked pepper, keep in mind that you want to make sure you don't overheat your pepper because there's oils in it that can burn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mix this in a bowl. So we'll go ahead and slide half the brown sugar in there. And then same thing here. A little bit half, a little bit half, a little bit half. And then a little more brown sugar. The thing is if you add it all at once, then it'll be a little bit harder to mix. This is just one of my little tricks for making it easier to mix. So now we've added it in stages, and then when we go to mix it, it's almost just going to come together just with a few little mixes. We're not going to have to play a lot with it. Now, you can put mustard on here if you want. Today I'm not going to, but mustard makes a nice adhesion for it. So you would layer out the mustard. I prefer a mix of half Dijon and half regular if you're going to do that. But I really try to avoid the mustard to start with if I can. So we're not gonna go too heavy on this. We're trying to use about 2/3 of this mix here that I've made, and we're gonna save the other third for our second step. So after I do this, we're gonna let this whole thing sit for about maybe 20 minutes before it goes into the smoker. So once I put my hands from the meat into the container, that means this is contaminated. So it cannot be used for anything else other than a cooked process. So when I say that, I'm going to use it, but I'm not going to put it on anything raw. I mean cooked. So you see I'm taking all these pieces and I'm putting them. And because it's going to be a while since we use this, I'm going to set it in the refrigerator just to be real food safe. I am super careful about temperatures, holding temperatures, heat and everything. And just so you know, I do have a food handler's card. So that's whatever is whatever. Okay, so I'm going to hold this up here so you can get a good look at it. I can put my finger under it so that way I don't drip it all over the place. But it's not buried. I mean, we got a good covering, but we're not buried in there. And this mix, this is what I like. If you have a favorite seasoning, like my favorite seasoning is smoked paprika, if you have a favorite seasoning, by all means, add it to the mix or even just sprinkle it on. I do recommend that you put on your seasonings from the beginning to the end. So in the first step and in the second step, and if you're going to make a sauce, I recommend that you save a little bit of your seasoning and add it to your barbecue sauce. A lot of people will just use a seasoning and a ketchup and call that a sauce, which is fine. But I prefer to actually use a store-bought barbecue sauce and add some spice to it. I don't like, when I look like spices, I'm not talking about a bunch of different spices. I'm talking about adding something that's going to bring a little bit of heat and some smoked paprika, of course, because you can never have too much smoked paprika. So anyway, we're going to go out to the barbecue, or to the, to the pellet grill and throw those on. So I'll see you outside. So we're back outside again with our ribs, and we just finished the smoke cycle on the pellet grill. And so I went ahead and changed it up to 250. Now I want to preheat the grill up to 250 or as close as we can. And it is roaring up there fast. So I'm not going to wait for it to come completely up to temperature before I load it. But I want it to be hot enough that it doesn't interrupt the heating cycle or anything before I open the lid. So we're going to give it another second here. And while we're doing that, first thing I'm going to talk to you about is my second favorite of all time accessory is the grill mat. This is really going to help a lot with everything. Now, I used the grill mat in the video that I shot yesterday for the meatloaf, meatballs stuffed with mozzarella. And I was able to just take that in the house and wash it up. I just took the brush, sprayed it with the faucet, and then took the brush and just wiped it off, and it came completely clean. These things are awesome, and I'll tell you what, if I wasn't in a hurry to use this one, and I have a couple more that I could have just grabbed, but I just wanted to just clean this one and just use it and get it back out here. So this is going to go right on here. And I cut this one from the original size, so this one's a little smaller than the grill itself, but the original size would have fit in there a lot better. So now I'm gonna go ahead and load that thing up. And I'm gonna put the thin side to the back. So you know how I cut that up? I just lined it back in there so that way those all fall in there. And there's a reason I cut those up. Besides just making it easier to handle them, it's also when I go to wrap them, you're gonna see how much better that works. Then I'm gonna put these scraps in here. And then we'll go ahead and close the lid. So we're gonna run this for a little more than an hour at 250. And then we're gonna do something really cool on how we wrap it here. And we'll be turning the temperature down for that. So don't forget, you have to turn the temperature down before you reload the wrapped ribs in the way I'm gonna do this. So we'll go ahead and take this inside and wash it while we're waiting for that to cook. So I'll see you in an hour. Okay, so it's been an hour now, and first thing that I did was I've already turned down the temperature by one setting. So we were on 250. The top temperature for this is 225. No mistakes here, okay? And the reason is because we're gonna use plastic wrap. So we don't want to be over that. If you want to go lower, you can go lower, but it's not necessary. Now, you can do this in your oven. You don't need to do this in the smoker. If you feel more comfortable with that, that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and then you can get a good look. And let's just grab one of these because we're going to be moving it anyway. And you can see that it's taken on some really nice color here. So, first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back. I'm gonna feed out a sheet of plastic wrap. Don't tell my wife that I stole her table. I'm gonna turn the camera down just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. There we go, like usual, if my head pops off, sorry. You just pick it up off the ground and put it, no, I don't mean popped off like that, I mean pops off the camera. Anyway, so I'm gonna do this. Put it like that. These are a really good size here. And then just a little sprinkle on here. A little bit more there. A little bit more here. Not trying to kill it, we're just trying to add a little bit more spices because we don't want to miss any. Now, I'm going to get it wrapped up. Then seal the edges. Now, I'm going to pull out a second piece and go crossways. If you have a smaller piece, a smaller rack, you might not have to pull out the second piece. But there's no question with this one, because of how large it is, that I'm going to have to double wrap it. And I just want to make sure that I get that end completely closed up. Oh, and look at that. It's done. I would throw this back in there, but I think we're still too hot. So I'm just going to kind of set it off to the side, pull out the next piece. A little bit on here. Lay it down. A little bit on here. And don't be scared about the plastic wrap. I've done this probably 50 times in the oven, and it always works out excellently. Sometimes when you use the plastic wrap in the oven, the cooking process will work almost, I don't know how else to describe it, but too well, and the ribs will get a little too soft. So I like pre-cooking them just a little bit to firm them up just a little bit, and then wrapping them. And we've given them, you know, a nice head start on the smoked flavor. This is a commercial food wrap, but it's really, it's just any other food, you know, any other restaurant supply food wrap that you would get. Nothing too crazy. And again, like the other pieces, I'm not trying to bury them in an additional rub here. I just want to put just a little bit more on. Caught it on there right before I closed it. Oh, there we go. That's better. So now we got that going. And to hold my hand in there, and that is actually a pretty decent temperature. It says that it's at 250 now, and I'm going to go ahead and back it down just a little bit lower. It said it was 225. Pushing it down to the 180 setting, and I'm going to start it there. Now, I'm not going to wrap the scraps here, so I'm going to go ahead and show those to you. But I'm just going to go ahead and let those run. And the reason is it would just be kind of a hassle. That little piece on the edge is almost done. So then I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then I'm going to wait a few minutes. And after I wait a few minutes, I have it at the 180 setting. I'm going to go ahead and bump it back up to 225. I just want to make sure it is not over 225. If it's under, it's just going to slow down the cooking process. If it's over, if it gets up into the 240 range, the plastic wrap could start to melt, and that is not something we're going for. So we're going to do this for 2 hours, and then we're going to punch that thing all the way up, and we're going to cook them off for 1 hour on a higher temperature. All right, so we'll see you in 2 hours. All right, we still got the camera down on low here, so that way you can see the table real clearly. And first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what I did here. Now, if you remember in the kitchen, we used this bowl here to mix the dry rub, and then we brought it out here and put a little more on there. There was a little bit left. So I took my favorite barbecue sauce, and you know, if you want to make a barbecue sauce, you can do that, and we do that sometimes, especially like when I'm on a diet or something. I'll use Dr. Pepper as a base, Diet Dr. Pepper, excuse me, as a base, and then use that to make a barbecue sauce out of when I'm on a diet. But here, what we have is just a store-bought barbecue sauce, which of course I have a favorite. And then some of the dry rub. So by using the dry rub with the store-bought barbecue sauce, we basically transform it to match the flavor of what we've got going here. So I have a silicone brush here, which is something that I really like to use for doing my stuff. I brought the thermometer out. We're not quite ready for it yet, but we're pretty good here. Let me check the pellets. Really low on pellets here. So I'll put some pellets in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and open this up and we'll see if you can see this in here. The bags have puffed up a lot. I think that it could be a little warmer, but they're looking really good. The nice thing about it is that we have all of the moisture is trapped inside there, and that's really how you can tell, because that puff up is just saying, yeah, we've got all the moisture in here. So let me grab a couple of gloves here. I don't like to handle my food without gloving up first. So I'm going to get a little reckless here. So I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to tear it open. And oh, that was pretty cool. The steam just popped right out of there. And I want you to see this. All this liquid in here just comes right off. And you can see that the rib bones are exposed. And I'm just going to toss that on the ground. I said I was going to get a little reckless. So I'm going to go ahead and open these all up. And then I'll move up to the camera here so you can get a closer look. And this really, it's just like baking them off, but they're completely sealed up. Look at that, look at that. Oh yeah. And if you were trying to cook something and you wanted to save the juice for like a gravy or a sauce, this is a good way to go. Now this one popped, so a little bit of the juice got out. Oh, but it still looks really good, really moist. Look at that, that's exactly what we're going for. I actually like the looks of that one the best. Flip that over. I'm gonna go ahead and turn all these and then give you a close-up look here. I don't know if I can even move it around with all this juice, but we're going to give it a try. So look at that. And I don't know if you can see the juice running around in the corner there, but you can see the bone coming up a little bit, which means that it's getting close. And this bigger piece, of course, is going to take a little bit longer, but I usually, when I'm eating them, I usually start with these pieces and then I finish. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that this isn't sticking to the grill. It's something I like to do in the middle when I have it low or empty. And then that way, when it's time to remove it, I'll be able to get it in and out of there easier. I'm going to take one of these little pieces here and sample it. So those little pieces there, they're certainly edible. It'd be just a little softer, but technically they're done. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this over, put a little on the bottom. Not going to go crazy on the bottom here. I'm not going to go crazy on sauce no matter what, to be honest with you. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to sauce the top. Going to go real quick here. All the juice is kind of running down on the side there. So rather than put this one back in there, I'm just going to take it straight into the grill. I'm going to get a little more on this one. It looks like the back didn't get enough. And again, this one here, I'm not planning on eating tonight. I think the leftovers will fare better with a little extra sauce. So I have these pieces here, and so I'm just gonna sauce them up a little bit. So the back of this one's going to be really kind of gristly. This little cutaway piece is always like that because it's got a little bit of the silver skin incorporated in there. So I'm going to go ahead and shut this, and then we're going to get rid of one of these so that way I can work clean. I'll just throw that with those, and then I'll pick those up when we're done here. So I'm going to make sure that this is still going good. Right there. A little more on the pellets. Okay, so the goal is to go about an hour more with this. And so I put in a little bit more than what I think is about an hour's worth of pellets. They close that down. And now that we have the plastic wrap back out of there, I'm going to raise the temperature to 250. I'm going to go to 265. That's as the highest as a temperature that I would cook the ribs in the smoker. Now, if it was able to char, I would go at 250 for about 30 minutes and then 5 minutes on each side at a char temperature like 700. Like on the Masterbuilt Gravity Series, you can get up to 700. Or I might consider even taking it over to the propane grill and grilling them off on there also. But tonight we're just gonna do it like this, and once the barbecue sauce is completely set, technically they're edible at this point, but I want them to really break down a little bit more. All right, so we got about an hour more, and I'll be back with you. It'll be a second for you, but it'll be almost an hour for me. Okay, we're here now. So we're just done, and so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn this down to the shutdown sequence. And then I'm going to go ahead and unload it. So before I pull those others off of there, I'm going to give you a real good look here. So first, let's go ahead and hold that up like that. And then I'll see if we can get a little closer here. And you can see that the bones are exposed on all these here, which is a real good sign. These little pieces seem hotter. I don't know why. I'm going to show you that real quick. How about right there? Oh, there you go. That's a nice looking piece. All right, well, I'm just going to let that finish shutting down, and then I'll take the grill mat in. I had to do the shutdown cycle today because I put a little bit too many pellets in on the last reload. I just was a little worried about it running out since I turned up the temperature a little bit. But it'll go ahead and shut down, and then I'll cover it up and try to keep as much of the humidity out of the pellets as possible. So thanks for watching. You'll find a link to the article below, and the link to the Traeger review for all the Traeger items, and then any other things that we use, like the grill mats and pellets and stuff like that, will be down below. And pretty soon we'll be coming up with the pellet article. I have all my different varieties of pellets, and I just need to go through and bench test them all, burn some, feed some through the machines, see how they all smell, and make sure everything works out good, and then I can give you my opinions on what I've got. I do have a few different brands that I use all the time, but I went ahead and purchased a couple more real common brands because I want you to have a real good idea on those ones too. So thanks for watching. Have a nice day.